American wrestling has long been considered one of the strongest foundations in MMA, but in recent years that foundation seems to be crumbling. Fighters with American wrestling backgrounds used to dominate the octagon, but as the sport has evolved, so have the techniques used to stop them. In this video, we'll explore why American wrestling is no longer as effective as it once was in the UFC and what needs to change for it to remain relevant. Back in the early days of MMA, American wrestlers were the kings of the sport. Fighters like Randy Couture, Daniel Cormier, and Brock Lesnar used their wrestling prowess to control opponents and win fights. Their NCAA wrestling backgrounds gave them an undeniable edge in the cage, allowing them to dictate the pace of the fight and often wear down their opponents with relentless takedowns. These fighters were pioneers, introducing a level of control and strategy that MMA had never seen before. But this dominance didn't last forever. As MMA evolved, so did the fighters. Takedown defense became just as important as the takedown itself. Fighters realized they had to develop skills to stop those single and double-leg takedowns that had been so effective. Today, it's common to see fighters use underhooks, whizzers, and cage control to keep the fight standing. Takedown defense has become a fundamental skill for almost every fighter in the UFC, and the fighters who can't stop the takedowns are being exposed. We've seen it in countless fights where wrestlers dominate early, only to find that their opponents have adapted and can defend takedowns with ease. While American wrestlers were dominating the sport, other wrestling styles were quietly evolving and finding success in MMA. In particular, the wrestlers from the Caucasus region, including fighters like Khabib Nurmagomedov and Islam Makhachev, brought a different approach to the cage. Khabib's style was unique in that it wasn't just about scoring takedowns, it was about controlling his opponents, suffocating them, and wearing them down mentally and physically. His style, which combines freestyle wrestling, judo, and sambo, is designed not only to get the takedown but to dominate on the ground and keep the opponent there. Khabib's success was undeniable. 29 fights, 29 wins, and no one could stop him. Islam Makhachev, a protege of Khabib, followed a similar approach, blending his wrestling with sambo and judo techniques to dominate the lightweight division. So, where does that leave American wrestlers? The problem is that many have failed to adapt. They continue to rely on traditional American wrestling techniques that were once dominant but are now becoming less effective in MMA. In a sport that's constantly evolving, sticking to one style is no longer enough. Take Bo Nickel, for example. With 3 NCAA wrestling championships to his name, Nickel has one of the most decorated wrestling resumes in MMA today, but his performance in the UFC has shown that even elite wrestlers from the US are struggling to make an impact. In his fight against Rainier de Ridder, Nickel found himself in trouble, losing by second-round TKO. The fight highlighted the flaw in relying solely on American wrestling. It doesn't account for the evolving tactics of MMA, like clinch work, striking, and control from other grappling arts. Nickel's defeat exemplifies the challenge American wrestlers face: the inability to adjust to modern MMA strategies. Adaptation is the key to success in MMA. American wrestlers need to learn from fighters like Khabib and Islam, who have integrated multiple disciplines into their game. Simply relying on wrestling alone won't cut it anymore. In fights like Daniel Cormier versus Jon Jones, we saw how important adaptation is. Cormier, an Olympic wrestler, was still outclassed by Jon Jones, who used his reach, striking, and defensive wrestling to nullify Cormier's grappling. Jones was able to defend the takedown and use his own wrestling to control the fight. Even the best American wrestlers can be beaten by opponents with little to no wrestling pedigree, something we're seeing more and more of in MMA. So what can American wrestlers do to stay competitive? The answer lies in diversification. They need to incorporate more than just wrestling into their skill sets. Judo, sambo, and Brazilian jiu-jitsu are all disciplines that are proving successful in MMA, and they need to be embraced by American wrestlers if they want to keep up. Daniel Cormier, one of the most accomplished wrestlers to ever transition to MMA, knows this. He's spoken about how wrestling has become outdated in the modern era, but instead of offering solutions or helping wrestlers adapt, he often just bemoans the changes. American wrestlers need to be open to change. They can't just rely on their takedowns. They need to integrate chain wrestling and not just using the same techniques that have been figured out over and over again. They need to adapt and use different grappling styles, improve their striking, and become well-rounded MMA fighters if they want to stay relevant. As MMA continues to evolve, so too must the wrestlers who once ruled it. American wrestling had its time at the top, but if it's to remain a dominant force, it must adapt and evolve just like the rest of the sport. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe for more insights into the changing landscape of MMA.